What I think that when it's a type of a job that's, in the public spotlight, where you are watched literally and figuratively, and then everything you say or do is magnified. That's what I just wasn't prepared for. I was very naive. I just wanted to tell stories and talk about sports.
Welcome to the Radio Theology Podcast. Darren Earthywine, your host, here with the one and only Sage Steele. And
hi again, Darren.
Well, it's good to have you. I mean, she's an alumni, which is pretty crazy to just say that Sage Steele is an alumni on our podcast.
I love it.
But Sage, this is a little weird because I'm sitting in my living room and it's your face and you're there, except you're on my TV, and now we're here, which it's kind of mind-blowing.
I like it. It's never, I don't think it's fair to those of us on TV because it's a one-way street. You get to see me. I don't get to see you.
Well, you look the same, but
if
you could see me, I'm usually in my pajamas eating popcorn,
Good for you.
Which is embarrassing. But last time on the podcast, we talked a little more about your story and your journey. And you're in town here in Indianapolis talking at the EdgeX conference. You're going to talk about toughness a little bit. And what I wanted to share is a lot of people, they have dreams, they have ambitions, and sometimes maybe they even step into those and they start to experience it. But one thing I think that we don't understand is the toughness and grit that we need to show to be able to sustain ourselves within every phase of really chasing dreams. And so you have had to have obstacles, things you've had to push through, seasons where you had to realize there's going to be some pain and some toughness to get through this. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know where to begin with that. There have been so many times that things have kind of come unexpectedly, kind of slapped me across the face. And then I pushed through, but I didn't know that I was pushing through per se. I was just doing what I thought was the next best thing, is to fight back and to say, no, that's not fair. Wait, you don't think I'm worth what? But I'm here. I'm doing the job that you asked me to do. So I started off as this really crazy, shy kid, which I think we may have talked about before.
Yeah.
And so I just thought if you did a good job, worked hard, were kind to others, knowledgeable, doing all the things that were part of your job requirement, and going above and beyond, even though it shouldn't be viewed that way, just, again, being a good person, that it all would work out. And it doesn't always work that way. So
is that, there's somewhat that's, you could say, is that there's some immaturity there. There's a naivety of it, right?
Very naive.
And I would say most people early in their career, as they're chasing dreams, that's probably something everybody has on board.
I think so. I think that when it's a type of a job that's, in the public spotlight, where you are watched literally and figuratively, and then everything you say or do is magnified. That's what I just wasn't prepared for. I was very naive. I just wanted to tell stories and talk about sports. And so I didn't know, for instance, that it even mattered, my question that I'm asking an athlete in a locker room versus a man's question. Why is that viewed differently? And why do I have to act a little bit differently when I'm in there as a woman? Things like that you just don't think about because you're young and you're just doing. Wait, I'm knowledgeable. You're just doing your job. So an example is when I was here in Indianapolis in 1997, 98, and I worked at Wish TV, and it was kind of ESPN was always my goal, but which was definitely like a dream job for me at the time. Yeah. And I was working crazy shifts, doing everything they wanted. The first female sportscaster in this market. Yeah. I didn't know that. Someone else told me. Because again, I didn't look at things that way. You just here you just go. Doing your job. And I needed a raise. I was making literally like poverty line money. I couldn't really support myself, and I had a contract, and my very minimal raise was due in about 6 months. And I asked if they could just advance it, and then you don't have to pay me again. I'll work overtime, but I just need this. I don't want to ask my mom and dad for help. Yeah. And maybe it was a crazy ask. I don't know, but it was genuine, and it was an attempt to just try to fix the situation myself. And my boss said, "Well, let me think about it." A week later, called me back in, and he said, "Well, talked to the general manager of the station. He and I don't really think you're worth it. So I'm not crying, I promise, something's in my throat. But at the time I did. You're just not worth it right now, Sage. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not worth it? He's like, well, you talk too fast. I mean, you don't dress very well. You're just not worth it right now. And I mean, what do you say? 24 years old, you're speechless, So I got up and I said, well, what can I do to make you think I'm worthwhile? He's like, oh, you just got to keep working. You got to slow down. And I'm like, in other words, you're going to cut someone down, but you're not going to follow up with any advice to make them better. Because, oh, by the way, not only does it make me better, more importantly, it makes everybody better. The whole team wins if I'm better when I'm broadcasting on your air. Yeah. And so I left that room and called my parents in tears. And my mother is very emotional like me, and she's like, let me have him. Yeah. What am I going to do?
What's the address? Yes. I'll be there.
Yeah. And then she calmed down. And my dad as well, who's always very much like this, monotone. And they said, okay, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, I don't know what to do if he doesn't believe in me. He's like, no. Figure it out. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay and let this person obviously he doesn't believe in you. Or are you going to prove to him and find something else and not let someone take away your dream? And I said, well, that's easy. How do I do it? And so that was the beginning of it. It was it was a major turning point, obviously, in my life, my professional career. And then I was making no money, but somehow begged someone to represent me, an agent who I later found out, a young woman. I was her first ever client too. We were in this together. Wow. And she got me another job at the ABC affiliate in Tampa, a bigger market than Indianapolis, even though I was brokenhearted to have to leave this town. I love it. And for more money. And someone else thought I was worth it. So it was a great lesson. Yeah. Because he broke me by saying that, because he was a legend here. In this town for whom he had hired in the past, some famous people, and he knows talent. So I was this close. What if I had listened? What if I had quit? Yeah. So that's an example of where I didn't know until later how tough I was to fight back against this legend.
And I'm guessing at every step, I mean, we could probably sit here and talk for hours. I'm guessing at every step there was a new challenge of stream.
Everyone. Yeah,
and everyone probably got a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But maybe you were a little more prepared for them.
I think so. But I didn't know. I was just so in the moment and such tunnel vision throughout most of my career that I didn't know. And I didn't think back on other things where it's like, well, wait a minute. You did get through that. Let's use that strategically and just emotionally. And I was just so focused and so intense with everything I was doing throughout my entire career. But now I do look back a lot. I guess that's the beauty of getting old, right? Yeah. Now I do look back and say, okay, I got through much worse. Yeah. I got through this. Here's how I handled it. And I didn't fly off the handle. I didn't send that tweet right away. I didn't send that email because I'm famous for that. I'll send you an email in the middle of the night. No. And then you wake up and you're like,
maybe we should have put pause on
they didn't read it yet. Can I recall it? So just a lot of moments like that.
So say somebody's watching or listening to the podcast and they're that 24-year-old dream chaser. They're at a place right now where they've been devalued in a way from somebody they look up to. What can you say? Because there was I mean, you had your parents, but there had to be an inner voice. And I think for all of us that have begun to and maybe just take hold of a dream that's taken hold of us, is that dream has a voice in us. There's that inner voice. And a lot of times that can be connected to faith. For us in the Radio Theology podcast, a lot of that's connected to what we believe the Spirit of God inside of people. But no matter somebody's faith understanding, there's still that drive within to be able to find that value. So maybe somebody's listening or watching right now and they're at that place. Someone's devalued them. Someone doesn't see that potential in them. What kind of encouragement would you give them from like that moment? I know, like I said, I know your parents spoke into it, but what was it within you that said, no, Sage, you are worth it. It's in you.
I literally had to ask myself the question if I was worth it. He made me question that. And again, I was young. But when it's someone in an authoritative position that is someone you look up to and that everyone reveres, probably natural no matter what your age to at least think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But my turning point was, wait a minute, am I going to let this guy ruin my dream that I've had since I was 12 years old?
Yeah.
And I had to dig deep and say, no. Sounds easy, but you can say no, but then how are you going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go there and just be like, it was a learning experience that, once again, not everybody's going to like you either, even if you are doing everything the right way, whatever that is, which is subjective at times. But most importantly, are you doing the job that you've been given, and doing it well? So I had to ask myself that question. Are you willing to let someone else ruin this? If you fall on your face later, fine. But at least that's knowing that you've tried and it's on your own terms.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love it. So I guess the question is then, when you got your first big contract at ESPN, did you go back to him and say, was I worth this first check?
Oh, I've thought about it many times. Many times I've thought about it. I do have a friend. He's still here in town. I know he's much older.
Yeah.
And he retired. And one of my former producers, she goes to whatever gym up here and saw him on the treadmill, and they were chatting, and I guess I came on TV, and he's like, oh, there's our girl. And she said, and she just left it alone, but she told me what I said, and I thought, there's your girl? Oh, now you're going to take credit for me? Okay, fine. Maybe I should give him credit, because he lit something in me.
It's still a turning point, right?
It was. And so therefore I wouldn't change it.
So last question for you, Sage. Now you have that perspective. You're not naive. You've overcome these obstacles. And I guess when you get face to face now with the 24-year-old version of yourself, someone you see the dream, you see the sparkle in the eye. Is that something that you try to instill in people, is find ways to speak value and to help people grasp it themselves?
Yeah. First of all, I'm hard on people when it comes to young women or men who would like to be in this profession, because I want to make sure they're doing it for the right reason. There's a lot of people who came long before me that paved the way and that made it possible. So I want to know why you want in, because it's very cool and it's fun and there's lots of perks.
Sure.
But do you want to be in it for that, or do you want to be in it to tell stories and to be a journalist? And there's a big difference. And so because there's a lot of people that pull on us for our time, which is great, bring it. But I need to make sure that my time, since I am human and have a family and tons of work obligations, that my time is spent wisely, is spent well.
Absolutely.
And with kids who really want to do it and do it the right way.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's something you're instilling in your own kids too.
For sure. My kids are 17, 15, and 13. They don't want to hear it from me. That's for sure. But they don't have a choice.
That's true. So maybe if you're listening, you have kids at that age, but they don't want to hear it. They can hear it from Sage Steele. And I'm sure.
Let me help.
Yes. Sage, thanks for being
Thank you.
on the Radio Theology Podcast. It's always an inspiration. And now I will dress nicer whenever you're on TV.
Send me a picture.
Yes.
So, because I would prefer to be in my pajamas with no makeup. Trust me. Gosh.
ESPN doesn't let that happen. I'm sure, yeah.
No.
They did have pajama day. That would actually be kind of cool.
Yeah, but we'd have someone wearing some inappropriate stuff, and then the internet would explode again. And that's just what we need.
Awesome. Thanks for the time.
Thank
We appreciate
you,
it,
Darren.
Sage.
Thank you.
Very cool.